Hi, Pete.
Hi.
Thanks for coming out today for our lesson. This is a player profile sheet that I have for all my students. I keep notes on here of what we talked about. Anything that goes down here that I need to note will be in a file for us just in case we meet again. So I just want to start off with giving me a little bit about your golfing history and your golf background.
Played since I was like 15,
Okay.
but off and on and self-taught, so it's bad.
15, okay. And what do you do for work now?
Environmental scientist.
Okay. How long have you been doing that?
A little over a year.
And what do you like about your job?
The freedom that I get.
Freedom. Okay. Do you get to do any traveling?
It's all traveling.
All traveling. Tell me a little about your game and what you'd like to work on today.
Anything long is really like where my weaknesses are.
Okay. Long game?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you specifically worked on that with anyone? Have you ever taken golf lessons? I know you said you self-taught for a while, but have you seen anyone?
We did up in New Hampshire. I forget his name, but we did like a day there, and then he followed us around like the 18 holes.
Okay. And anything in your head that you remember about long game that you try and recall when you're doing anything? Okay. All right. Great. Before we get started and start moving or swinging, has anything been hurting you physically wise? Anything before, during, or after golf?
Nope.
Okay. Do you have any physical limitations or current pain areas?
Left shoulder.
Your left shoulder. Okay. Just give me a little bit more information about your left shoulder.
Shattered the scapula when I was 14.
Okay.
And just after 18 holes, it might be a little bit sore.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be a problem.
Do you do any pain management for that?
Nope.
Okay. So it's just a little bit of a hurt afterwards. It might not be as in great of shape. Okay. And do you have any allergies that we need to be aware of or anything? Okay. So just your left shoulder. Do you have any specific warm-up routine for yourself before you come out to the driving range?
Not really.
Okay, all right, let's warm up together. Typically, if I'm coming out to the driving range, I just want to get like my whole body warmed up. So I usually just take one foot, just practice on balancing, and I just stretch out my legs a little bit. What other sports besides golf are you familiar with or have you played in the past?
Lacrosse, rugby, hockey, baseball, cricket, stuff like that.
And what do you like about golf? Just take all kinds of golf.
Like it's just everyone in my family plays.
Okay.
So
it's a family sport.
Yeah.
Who do you get to play with most often?
My buddy Dave.
And do you play for recreation? Do you play for competition?
Recreation.
Recreation. Okay, great. All right, I'm just going to give you a club here. I just kind of want to stretch out our back a little bit. I just usually put it behind my shoulder. Now, would it hurt if you put it behind your shoulder or you feel okay? So put it behind your shoulder. I just like to kind of get that area going and then just open up my back a little bit when I do this. Tell me about like your shots when you hit with your long game. What do you notice when they're your good shots?
Straighter.
Okay.
On the fairway or right off of it.
Okay. Straighter. Do you
Distance is decent.
Distance, okay. How do you notice anything about the sound of the ball that comes off the club or how it looks, how it feels to you?
Well, it's cleaner sounding.
Cleaner, okay.
It's like the healthy little curve and straight.
Okay. So a little curve. And do you curve right to left or left to right?
Left to right.
And do you keep score when you play? Okay. And so you're just playing for recreation, just to be out there, family plays, want to be out there with friends? Okay. When you hit a ball that's not so satisfying for you or you're not really happy with it, what do you notice about that shot?
Usually I either top it before I get too far underneath it.
Top or underneath? And does anything feel different to you? Do you see something with the ball doing it? Do you hear anything different?
Well, it's obviously not going to sound as clean.
Not as clean, okay.
It's going to immediately hit right or left usually because it won't be square either.
And And what's your favorite part of the golf game, or your strength that you have?
Probably chipping.
Chipping. The short game is great. How often do you get to go out and practice? I know you do traveling for work. Do you get to practice? Do you like to play a little bit more? How does your routine work out for you?
Lately, I'm playing it all.
Okay.
Usually, like at least twice or 3 times a month.
2-3 times a month. Great. So we're going to work on long game today. Tell me what, when you hit and you're talking about not a great shot, and it goes either right or left right away, it's not a square club face, or it doesn't feel as smooth. How often does it happen on the golf course?
Most of the time.
Okay. And when you say mostly, let's give it like a percentage, like
70 to 80.
70 or 80%. And what's acceptable or a manageable golf shot for you?
Like percentage-wise.
Yeah, percentage-wise, or
Half the time would be right.
okay. So you're looking for
partial.
about 50%. You know, one good, one bad. Okay. So you're looking for half better shots. So if your shots were better for your long game that you were just talking about, what would it be like? What would it either look like, feel like to, or sound like? What would a better shot look like?
That clean ping off the club face. Probably just by being straighter and landing the fairway.
Great. So we have a half-hour lesson today. What one thing will help you enjoy the game more in this half hour?
Just better understanding my swing.
So, okay, understanding your swing. And just want to make sure that we have a confined definition for us to work with today. When you say a better understanding of your swing, are you looking for what you're doing right now and why the ball does certain things?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for a straighter golf shot,
Yeah.
especially with your long game.
And not topping it.
Okay.
Would be.
So we're gonna not top as much. Okay, so today for our one goal right now, would you kind of agree we don't want to top the golf ball, but
Yeah.
more of a fuller sound for you, one of that smooth ping? Okay. How about a long-term goal for 6 months from now? Where would you like to put that goal?
I mean, just feeling better at my game.
Feeling
overall.
better? Okay. A little bit more confident?
Yeah.
Okay. And what would you do to have a year from now goal? What would be, having you be happy with going out to play with your buddy or going out to play with your family?
Just being more consistent.
More
with it, too.
consistent. Okay. So we're trying to get a little bit more consistent with your long irons, that we're going to try and hit them more precisely for you so that we can have half of your shots better than 70 or 80% of them not being great. So would you say that consistent contact would be a good starting point today? Getting a sense for maybe why things do what they do?
Mm-hmm.
So all right, we'll look for some consistent contact with your long irons. Let's take a look at these clubs that you have here. What kind of clubs are you using?
The TaylorMade burners.
Okay.
And then just Heritage clubs.
Okay.
These clubs that I bought.
That you've gotten from maybe some other people. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like your clubs?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you said you've been playing since you were 15. Have you had a specific set since you were 15?
No. I inherited a full set of Al Joey something or another. That really hurt to hit.
Okay. And
That's why I shied away from mine. So.
Okay. Great. We'll certainly look at these. Have these been fitted for you?
No.
Okay. So they. We'll just take a minute to talk about fitting for your golf clubs. It would benefit you as a golfer to look into maybe getting fitted for a whole set. Has your putter been fitted for you, or your driver? That's something that having everything fitted for your body type, how you swing the club, would be beneficial to you, and especially for your ball flight, getting that consistency. So maybe down the road, that's something that we can look into. And for you, but today, these look good. These are sufficient for what we're doing today, and we'll get started here. I'm going to let you hit some shots, get warmed up, do some practicing, whatever you do while you're down here. And I'm going to move around you and just observe while you hit. And if you could just give me some feedback in terms of if this was a good shot for you, is it acceptable, and kind of what it looked like.
Okay.
All right? Whichever club you'd like to work on with your long game. What club do you have there?
5-iron.
5-iron, okay. And those first 2 shots, is that common for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that might happen on the golf course?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How do these shots compare to your past shots? Pretty similar?
Yeah.
Okay. And does this happen with all your clubs?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mostly
Anything in the lower irons.
Lower irons. Okay, so we have a 6-iron right now. Okay. About a couple of these shots over here. Our goal for today is just to get for you to feel like you have a consistent ball flight that you can manage with, so that half of your shots are better than having 70 or 80% of your shots not great. So what I want to do right now is just go over some setup things. The best thing that we can do right now is to give you a consistent setup so that you feel comfortable getting in front of the ball every time, doing the same things, and that's going to help you feel more confident, especially with like your long-term goal of 6 months, just being confident to get out there with people. What I want to give you is a little bit of a higher lofted club so that we can talk about a couple different things here. Okay, so let's go stand next to the ball here. Go ahead and set up. I'm just going to take this ball away from us so that we can start to practice and talk. So go ahead and relax for a second. So I want to give you a couple of different things that we're going to talk about. The first thing here is your grip. I would just want to talk about the grip for a few seconds. It's the most important thing. It's between you and the club. So I'm going to harp on it a little bit to make sure that it is it's understood between two of us and we're on the same page. The left hand wants to sit on top of this left pad. So it feels like it's actually running through the top of our index finger, that middle joint, all the way through that middle pad here, and that looks great. So what we want to avoid is the middle feeling, the right pad, the middle feeling. We really want to be up here. And then that way, you could eventually hold this club with your index finger and your pad on top here. You could eventually hold it with just those two body parts, right? So if we were to do it in the middle here, it'd be pretty hard to do that.
Yeah.
Okay? So we want that on top of that pad here and that left index finger to hold the club together, and then our fingers wrap around it. Your right hand is like a bucket where you would hold a tin rim to it. We don't want the rim to sit here, and that's what I've been seeing just a little bit. I've been seeing a little bit more on this side. So if you hold it like it's a rim here. Good. So it's kind of like you're picking up a bucket. Now on a scale of like 1 to 10 being grip pressure, how would you say that how hard you hold the club? 10 being like death grip and 1 being the club will fly out of your hands.
Probably like anywhere between 6 or 8.
6 or 8, good. So we generally want to start like around a 4 or a 5, and adrenaline's going to bring us up a little bit. So I just want you to have a sense for it's not as, not super tight, but I want you to feel like you have a comfortable hold with the club, but not too tight that your accessory muscles are tightening up or anything. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about posture. Go ahead and stand up nice and straight for me. So you have really good posture here. If you notice my posture, when it's stand up nice and straight here, everything kind of touches the club. And then when I go down into my golf posture, it kind of stays the same. What I'm noticing is that it's a little bit more hunched over and you're crowding the golf ball. So to get into this position, go ahead and stand up nice and straight. And you're just going to take your hands and hit them against your hip bones and just pick your hips out there a little bit. Bend your knees, and your weight goes on the balls of your feet, and then your arms just hang with your club and that great grip that we just talked about. We also want the end of the club to point to your belly button. We don't want to point to our zipper, because if you notice, this is the toe of the club. If I go down too much, that toe goes to the sky. Okay? So I really would love to have that end of the club here point to your belly button or your button on your shorts instead of your zipper. And then that's going to help you be a little bit taller here instead of rounded.
Okay.
How's that feel?
I mean, a little awkward right now.
A little awkward right now? Does anything hurt?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to give you a different club so that everything can transition over. Right, so that left hand goes with that pad. That right hand's like a tin bucket. That looks great. And yeah, you're just a little bit taller now. So we want to have that weight on the balls of your feet, that nice back that we were just doing. This looks great. So we notice that the toe of the club isn't toward the sky and that the end of the club points to your belly button. Okay? So this is just some setup things that we want to just get a little bit more consistent. The next thing I want to talk about with your setup is on your feet. You want to make sure that they're straight in line with each other. You have a tendency to sometimes have your left foot behind your right foot. And so if we talk about stance right now, stance wants to be just about your shoulder width, and maybe just a little bit bigger than shoulder width. So if I take your shoulders and I'll put my fingers on your shoulders here, this is how big your shoulders are. So we might want to be just that same size for your feet there. 3. And then again, your weight comes on the balls of your feet. Good. Those hips go out, knees come down a little bit, and the end of the club points to your belly button. Looks great. How does that feel right now?
I mean, getting used to it.
Getting used to it, good. So I'm just going to come down here, look at you, and what I notice is that you're not super rounded like we were before, and that's something that we'll work on. But your feet are also nice and straight, so they're not open to the target, which would be left of the target of your feet. They're just nice and straight. I'm just going to take this ball in. I'd just like you to take this club. Again, we just want to make sure everything transitions with all your different irons. And go ahead and take some practice swings for me, just with those new things we talked about. How does it feel? Any pain? Anything
Nope.
different? Okay, so we have a couple new things to talk about after we did setup. So we talked about your grip, your posture, and your stance with your feet. Next thing I'm going to do is just put a couple tees on the ground for you. And all I want you to do is clip the tee out of the ground. right on top of that left pad here. And that's like a right bucket too in there. Everything looks good. Your hands want to be underneath your nose, so just make sure that they're not too underneath your chin, and just go ahead and relax for a second. Just take your nice posture, stand nice and tall. Again, you sometimes have a tendency to kind of roll the shoulders, get really low, and you know, golf is an athletic sport, and we want to feel like we're in an athletic position. So we take those hips after you're staying nice and tall, go out, knees go over, and then your hands just lay from there out of your arms. And again, I'm just going to move you a little bit outside of your to your nose, so your hands are underneath your nose. Yeah, and not in this type of a way, but just giving yourself some room between you and the club. Perfect. Good, so all I wanted to do with that tee was kind of just work on our setup every time. So we worked on just your grip, your stance looking a little bit more like your shoulder width, your feet in a straighter line, and your hands underneath your nose rather than kind of crowding you, okay? So what I want to do right now is just put the ball on a tee for you. And I want you to do the same thing you were doing, is just clip the tee out of the ground. All we're working on is just a consistent setup with those feet, hands, and then that nice posture. Describe that shot for me if you could.
I mean, should have been aiming for the tee.
Okay.
And I still topped the ball a little bit.
So it felt like a top a little bit more?
Yeah, and obviously not keeping my head down like it should be.
Okay. And how about direction-wise?
I mean, it went straight. So.
Straighter, okay. So all we're working on is just a consistent setup to get you feeling more confident. Go ahead and clip that tee out of the ground, nice and easy. Give yourself some room between the club. Nice and easy. And also with your setup, when you do that nice posture and your knees go out and your hips go out as well, keeping that weight on the balls of your feet is going to help. And also when you finish, to keep that balance position. So we start balance, we want to stay in balance and finish balance. So we're just getting that tee off the ground. How is that contact?
I mean, it feels a lot better.
Feels better, okay. How about your setup? I know before you were just taking some extra practice swings to feel.
It feels like it should be what I'm doing.
Okay.
Like it feels right while also feeling so wrong because I'm so used to it.
Okay, so kind of getting out of different habits from before.
Yeah.
Okay. That shot would be for you?
I mean, the shot itself is good.
Okay.
Well, for me it was good.
Okay.
I think I still topped with it because I was still aiming for the tee.
Okay.
So I feel like the good shot was just coincidental.
Okay, so it may have just happened because of some things that you were doing.
Yeah.
So same thing, we're just going to do that nice setup that we were working on. Just look from this direction. So I'm going to just take the club back with you, so go ahead and hold it. I just want to take the club back with you and show you a little bit of, go ahead and relax, and I want to keep this club just a little bit in this direction, so that club face lines up square. Sometimes you have a tendency of shutting it or closing it, and that sometimes can give the ball some curvature to go left, along with some other things in your golf swing that we can talk about later if we meet again. but for right now, we want to make sure that club face, like we were talking about earlier, you said it might go right or left really quickly. It's going to come in square. So I'm just going to take it with you. And I just want you to have this feeling. Just this feeling.
Okay.
Okay. Take a practice swing if you want. All we're doing is get that tee out of that ground. And I'm just going to stop you there for 1 second. Again, your right hand sometimes tends to be a little bit too far over. There you go. Like holding that tin bucket. All right, why don't we come back here? Okay, so we worked with your irons today. We did a little bit of your setup to make sure that you have a consistent setup. That's really the first thing that I would have us, continue to work on if we were to meet again, only because I would love to have you feel confident in 6 months that you have a good setup and that you feel confident when you go play with your friends, when you go play with your family. Having a consistent setup, it's the really one thing that you can control and that you can work on to make sure that it happens every time. So we talked about your grip, we talked about your stance, and your posture. So if we could start to see that every time, that would be great. I'm going to ask now, is there anything in your past golfing history, past sports history, or past hobbies that you have, anything that you can relate this lesson to, so that you can remember it for long term? Is there anything that you've done before that this reminds you of your setup, of how you hold something, how you have to set up, feet are straighter together? Anything that reminds you of something that you've done in the past, or you can relate this to another sport?
I mean, for hockey, the feet being straighter for slap shots, or just getting set, and then fishing for how to hold it properly, in trying to just twist the rod a little bit.
Super. So fishing and hockey, that was great. And those feelings are feelings of that. We'd love to get in your long-term memories so that you can feel better when you come to set up every time to the shot. Now I just, we're going to end in a couple minutes here. I just love for you to, take me back to the what we our bigger points in our lesson today that we talked about, what we went through, and remind me of your goal and the technique that you're going to remember, things that we talked about, and how does it link to your long-term goal?
Well, I mean, everything just being about consistency for me right now.
Okay.
So that's where 6 month and a year goal is really based out of, or based for. And then just having feet a little wider than shoulder width apart, and that posture. And actually, this helped a lot, just doing that.
Moving out your hips a little bit?
Yeah.
Great. Do you have any questions for me? No? Okay. So I would suggest working on this on your own. We'll have to, I'd love to come see you again and work on this. We could do a checkup on your setup, and then we can go from there and look forward to your long-term goal. All right. Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you.